tonight we have a proposed lot division at the old Corn Shopping Center located at 411 North Main Street within Moscow. And so the proposal before you tonight is a lot division, a lot line of adjustment, basically of an existing 4.74 acre parcel. And the lot line adjustment is for an existing 9,360 square foot parcel located in the northeast corner of the property. The existing 4.74 acre parcel currently contains Rosar's grocery store, and there's also a smaller white cinder block building located in the north central part of the parcel, while the existing 9,360 square foot parcel is currently vacant in that northeast corner. So the proposal essentially would result in the creation of three parcels, one of 18,000 square feet in size, another in 16,700 square feet in size, and the resultant parcel would be 4.16 acres in size. So we currently have 5 vehicular approaches, 3 off of US 95 Main Street. We have one centralized one off of E Street, as well as one centralized off of D Street. We also have an existing public transit stop and shelter, and that's located just to the northeast of the existing vacant white building adjacent to E Street. And so, just to familiarize yourself with the property, outlined in green, you have the 2 proposed. So this would be the 4.74 acre resultant parcel here. You have 2 proposed parcels, one in the northeast corner. This is 18,000 square feet in size there, as well as 16,700 square foot proposed parcel located in the southeast corner adjacent to D and Main Street. Those are those 5 existing vehicular approaches. We've got the 3 off of Main Street, 2 in close proximity of each other in the northern end. Also have one located on E Street, as well as one on D Street here to the south that provides centralized access to the development. As part of staff's and ITD's proposal tonight would be to eliminate one of the existing approaches off of 95 and to consolidate those into one, essentially be left with 4 approaches, the 2, one off of D, one off of E, and then the 2 off of Main Street. We also have the transit stop, which has been identified here on E Street, and that's in the orange box there. Also part of staff's recommended condition is that the existing or the proposed 2 parcels use the existing approaches off of D and E as the main access to the site, and those not be allowed to have new curb approaches off of D or E or Main Street. Looking at the utility configuration across the parcels, you see a large 24-inch sewer main, and that's storm sewer transecting the property in that southeasterly direction, ties into the Hog Creek culvert there down on D Street and Main Street. The developer would be responsible for the relocation should the new, existing or the new proposed building pads be placed in a manner that would require relocation of those mains. Also have a sanitary main. You can see it vaguely in green here running north-south. That would be the same circumstance there. The developer would be responsible for the relocation of that. Some of the considerations before you is that the proposed lots meet all the minimum lot size, lot width requirements of the motor business zone. There's basically no minimum lot width or lot size required for commercial uses within that zone. The proposal would appear to support greater development of the parcel, which is desirable in staff's viewpoint. With the potential of increased traffic, staff's recommending the consolidation, like we had discussed previously, the 2 northerly Main Street approaches. This is to improve safety and reduce vehicular and pedestrian conflicts in that location. And then if the 2 northern approaches are consolidated, there would be 4 vehicular approaches on the site. And then the staff, lastly, recommends that all subject parcels jointly utilize those 4 vehicular approaches, the 2 centralized ones off of D and E, as well as the 2 on Main Street. And so this was previously reviewed and recommended for approval on November 10th by the Public Works Finance Committee, and staff recommends approval of the lot division and the lot line adjustment with the following conditions. The first one being that the applicant consolidate those two northern Main Street approaches, and that's prior to the issuance of a permit for a new principal structure upon any of those three parcels. The next one is that the applicant execute a shared access easement agreement allowing shared use of the four remaining vehicular approaches for all three parcels. And the last one being that prior to separate conveyance of the northeast parcel to a different party, the applicant either remove the existing vacant structure or modify the structure to meet building code fire separation requirements, currently straddling the proposed property line, and that's the reason for number 3. And with that, I'd certainly be able to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Walter?
Thank you, sir. Mike, would you go back to your aerial photo that showed the 3 proposed parcels? That one, great. Your information in the packet says there currently is a 4.74 acre parcel and a 9,360 square foot parcel.
The next one shows that one,
Is the 9,360 where we see the vehicles parked in the north?
the little black.
Yeah, it would be the black line here
okay.
on this parcel, so be basically right here.
So, okay, so that's the existing 9,360. The 2 red crosshatched are the 2 new proposed, and the remainder is the 3rd.
Correct. The one in the northeast corner is the 18,000 square foot parcel, basically going from that 6,700 square foot parcel in the northeast corner to 18,000, and then in the southeast corner, that one's proposed to be 16,700 square feet in size.
Yeah, I don't think we had that photo in our packet, so thank you.
Art, you had,
Yeah, I had a couple. One was I was thinking about this subsequent to Public Works and Finance and was wondering about the possibility of land swaps associated with bending E Street down to make a better connection across US 95. And on doing some inquiries, I found out a lot of reasons why this might be difficult at best. And I was wondering if you could just kind of reiterate those reasons about land swaps, and if you bent E Street to the west of Main Street down to better align with E Street on the east side, the reasons for land swaps being difficult.
Well, typically under state law, if you were to vacate that right away and realign it, basically the remaining parcel in the kind of northern portion of E Street would essentially, if you vacate it, half goes to each adjacent property owner, and so you'd be left with essentially an odd-shaped 7,000 square foot parcel, which would then have to be divided essentially between the Disability Action Center and then the, future owner of the parcel before you tonight. And so, that would further complicate matters. You would also have to, essentially, the city would have to approach the developer in order to basically purchase, that property in order to
There's
realign
also
E Street.
some city utilities underneath E Street that would be expensive to relocate. And some
Yeah,
other
also
issues.
require the relocation of the utilities as well as the bus shelter that was recently installed. So,
And while I'm at it, could you cover a little bit about building envelope locations and the potential for street trees and sort of the continuation of the idea of downtown further north as part of this development with the lot line adjustments that we're looking at here?
that could be that certainly could be a part of the development. There's really no restriction for street trees along 95 as well as E Street and D Street, and so as long as they satisfy basically the site vision triangle as well as the clear zone that's stipulated by Idaho Transportation Department on Main Street, there'd be no reason to say that we couldn't place street trees in that area. And in discussions with the potential developer of this property, it's his full intention that there'd be some landscaping and trees inserted along the frontage on Main Street. And so,
I think it's a great opportunity to really improve that site up to the north. I think the whole concept is about long overdue and could be really, really a great asset to the community. So that's what I had.
Wayne?
Mike, you talk about 3 curb cuts that are currently there. Isn't there actually a 4th one up in the northeast corner where it's not really used, but it seems like there's another one further up?
not that I'm aware of, no. I believe there's just the 3 on Main Street there, but it appears that there's a slight discoloration there, but I think that's because of the new concrete that was poured there.
John?
That piece of property where the trailers are parked now used to be Vern Chevron. And there was, at one point, you could enter and exit Vern Chevron, not only from E Street, but also from Main Street. But I think that
I think it's still there.
over the years, as that was built up, that delineation for that curb cut might just kind of disappeared. But it used to be, that was one of the many service stations that we had in town. And you could get in and out of it from E Street and from Main Street. And as long as I have the floor, I have a question for you. You mentioned the possibility of the land swap and the cost, but you didn't put a dollar on the cost. I know you can't say it would cost X number of dollars specifically and have that carved in stone, but do you have any idea as to the amount of money that it would cost? And I think it would cost the city that money to do that.
That might be a question better suited for the applicant, but it's my understanding that probably $8 to $12 a square foot, and so you're looking at $140,000 to $220,000, something around there.
Les, did you have something you wanted to bring up on the curb cuts?
Yeah, if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, we're just taking a look on the Google Earth sites, and it does appear that there might be an old cut, as John is mentioning, right at the north end. And on the aerial, you can see right at the corner where the crosswalk is, the city had installed, or probably ITD installed some new curb ramps through there, an ADA ramp, pedestrian ramp, and it looks like just south of that, there was perhaps an old cut through there. Either that or it's just a very low curb line.
Yeah.
It's a little bit hard to tell in the photos we've
There's
got.
a car in the way.
But there may very well have been one, as John was mentioning, with the gas station. So we would have to look at that in terms of whether or not that one would stay or could go away.
Okay, Dan?
I would, moving forward with this, I would say that maybe that first condition should just say instead of saying consolidate the two northern Main Street approaches, maybe have it say consolidate Main Street approaches into two usable approaches rather, however many there are, we want to end up with two. Sure. So I think that might be what we need to change the language there that we just end up with two on Main Street and then the other two are fine the way they are. Unless, like John said, there was one off of E Street, and I don't know if you can tell right now if that, and it is there actually, just looking at it, and it's a wide one. So we would probably want to say something about that as well.
That'd be east of that bus shelter you're talking about now.
Yeah,
Dan,
there's a big wide curb cut there still, approach, which makes sense with, how all those trucks are probably getting in there to park, so. So we may need to change that, add that language as well, that we only have we end up with four total, wherever they happen to be, as long as only two on Main Street and one on either side.
Okay.
Well, I would make a motion to approve this, along with the considerations and recommendations of staff, as well as the change in the language for number one, as proposed by Dan, to limit the total number of accesses from Main Street to two.
I'll second.
Okay. We've got a motion by Art and a second by John to approve the lot division with the following conditions, the three conditions. And condition number one, changing the wording so it just says two entrances on the north side, one on the, or no, two on the, well, actually it'd be two on the east side, wouldn't it?
Right,
One
that's
on
the
the
east
north and one on the south, correct? That's what we're talking about. Is that right? Walter?
I think Art said to limit Main Street to two and didn't mention East Street, so make sure we know what the motion is and what we're
Okay.
voting on.
What do we have for the motion over there? so it's plain.
I think we all know what we want to do, we just need to get the wording right.
Well, I missed what the last thing Art said after he said with the changes recommended by Dan.
That would be with two entrances to the east onto Main Street maximum, and the existing entrance on E Street and D Street.
So just what number 2 says.
Yeah. Well, except for the Main Street entrances, limit them to two instead of consolidating two northern, because there's actually three northern. And there's also the other one on E Street that we just discovered. So one entrance to the north off of E Street, one entrance to the south off of D Street, and consolidate the Main Street entrances on the east to a maximum of two.
Okay, that's pretty plain. Everybody got that? We good to go? We'll start the roll with you, John.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that passes, so we will move on. Thank you, Mike.